Hey guys, Akil here. Welcome back to the Trading Coach Podcast. Today we're going to play a little game of what has the better edge. This was a brilliant question I got this morning in one of our private Q&A sessions talking about counter trend trading versus trend continuation trading and how to know which is better. Why do I favor one over the other? So I want to involve you guys or include you guys in the discussion that we had. That way you can get a true answer just in case you were asking yourself this question as well. Discuss, you could always bring up as well, but that was the three. So we'll start with the first one. So Akil, hope you're having a great weekend, and I was. You consider yourself a counter trend trader. You mentioned that a couple times during the live rooms. Is that only personal reference, or do you think there is a better edge when trading counter trend? Do you think there are pros and cons in being a trend continuation trader and pros and cons of being a counter trend trader? If so, could you let us know what these are in your opinion? So obviously, I just don't want to answer for myself. This is why we have a group of amazing traders here to lend their opinion as well. I want to start with the first question. Do you think it is better, or is there a better edge to being a counter trend trader? So does counter trend trading, is it better than trend continuation trading? I guess you can say. Is there a greater edge? What would you guys say? George says no. Moose says no. Noel says mo. I would go the other way. Trend continuation trading. Is there a greater edge in trend continuation trading versus counter trend trading? And I would guess we're going to see the same answer, a bunch of no's. Yeah. So I would say this first and foremost when it comes to edge. Edge is interesting because your edge is your expectancy over the market. You can be a counter trend trader. Yes, you can have an edge in both, as Orsi mentions. Yep. And you can have different edges in both, right? So we can take 5 counter trend traders out of this room, and two can have amazing edges. One could have like a slightly okay edge, and 2 others can have no edge at all, inverse edge, right? Same thing. We can take trend continuation traders, and 2 of them could have amazing edges. 2 of them could have horrible edges. One can be in the middle. So the edge isn't necessarily counter trend versus trend continuation. The edge is more specific to your actual style of trading, whether that is a trend continuation style, whether that is a counter trend style, or whether that is neither, right? You look at an example, and I don't want to get into the whole thing because our brains will explode in like an Inception type of way when we talk about what is counter trend, what is trend continuation, because you can go forever and forever about how counter trend can also be trend continuation, but trend continuation can also be counter trend if you look at the bigger trend, and our brain explodes. But let's take an example real quick. And yeah, there's no need to label oneself as traders. We don't need to. I do think it's important for teaching purposes. I told you guys this all the time, right? I don't even like to say counter trend or trend continuation anymore. It's just trading. But I understand from educational purposes to kind of make sense of things, why it's still relevant. But I do feel like, we've been ahead of the curve in a lot of things here at Tier 1 Trading over the years. I think the next thing that we're ahead of the curve with is going to be just eliminating those terms, and we're just traders. But let's look at something like, for example, if you are an advanced pattern formation trader, you trade Gartley's, bats, ciphers, right? Can a Gartley, bat, or cipher, can advanced pattern come in a trend continuation type of state? Yeah, sure, it can. Can it come in a counter trend type of state? Sure, it can, right? So you can have stuff like that where advanced patterns have their own edge, and it's not necessarily one or the other. So I think what we need to think about more so in judging it versus which has the better edge is more so look at the characteristics of the two, right? What does a trend continuation trader, what do those characteristics look like? And does that align with kind of what I want from my trading, and then what I'm comfortable with, what I'm capable of doing? And then same thing with counter trend. So you look at trend continuation, and typically let me ask you guys this, right? When you think about counter trend or trend continuation trading, sorry, what is the first thing you think as far as like trend continuation trading? What as a trader, how do you kind of label that type of trader? What are they looking for? Right? George says trend following traders. That's another one, trend continuation, trend following, right? Trend following traders are more focused on making bigger profits, instead of looking to be in and out within a few seconds. And I would just take the term bigger profits. I know what you mean, George, but I don't want to confuse anyone else. Bigger profits, I would change that for bigger profits per the move. Because we don't want to get into like bigger profits, meaning more edge, bigger profits for the move. So George is saying that, hey, a trend continuation trader, or a trend following trader, you're looking to hop on the trend. We know that the market generally does two things, right? It pulls back, it extends. It pulls back, it extends. We know that extensions are larger than pullbacks, right? If you're taking the full extension, right? So generally a trend continuation trader, right, is looking to capture a move after a pullback, after, if we're talking about a bullish trend, after price has dipped, and they're looking to try to hop on that extension, the bigger move. Now, how far of that extension do they take? Again, that's where the edges can differ, right? You guys know my style of trend continuation trading, where I just look for the extension. I guess technically it's not even an extension yet, but I just look for the extension back to the previous high as my first target area, right? And then I'll shoot for second targets with the actual extension. There are some traders that look for the termination point of that actual extension and say, hey, that's where I want to be out. There are other traders that say, hey, I want to try to ride this trend as long as I can. And they'll trade the extension, they'll absorb the next pullback and try to stay on for the next extension, right? So there are different levels and different edges of that trend continuation or trend following type of trader. But in general, that type of trader is looking for longer moves, meaning they're looking to be in the market a little bit longer. Generally speaking, and again, it's all relative to how you're trading, but generally speaking, these type of traders have a lower win percentage. And again, I want to be very careful with that because it's very specific. I just told you 3 ways to do it. It's very specific to how you're actually doing it. You can easily be a trend continuation trader with a higher win percentage than a counter trend trader. So don't get caught too much on that, but generally speaking. So personality types for that type of trader is obviously you want to have some sort of belief that the trend is your friend. You want to have some sort of expectation that markets are more likely to continue than terminate. And if you're someone that's shooting for the big move, you need some big ones. It takes a lot to hang on for a move for a very long time without giving into those psychological demons. So it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of courage to ride that move out. It also takes a lot of disappointment because in order to catch that, in order to win the lottery, not that you guys should play the lottery, but if you're going to win the lottery, do you usually win it on your first ticket? No, you've got to buy a ticket and lose, and 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 buy a ticket and win, and then you get it that way. I had my buddy plays he plays all types of fantasy sports, but it's funny. Me and him used to play fantasy football and all the other stuff together, and we had two different approaches. This is the same buddy of mine that once we got out of the gambling, this is the buddy I played craps with. Once we got out of gambling, because we got older and kids, you couldn't go to casinos that much. We started doing fantasy football, and we're both very analytical in different ways. He used to work for the IRS. I'm a trader, so we're really good with numbers and spreadsheets and far too much math, right? But it was funny because our fantasy football strategies were completely different. I was counter trend. He was trend continuation, right? So I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with like sports gambling or sports betting, not even fantasy football, sports betting. Are you guys familiar with what like a parlay is? Have you ever heard of like a parlay? Anyone? Any degenerate gamblers out there? Anyone blowing their paychecks every week, placing bets? So like, imagine like sports betting, you can do two things, right? You can bet on an individual game where it's like, okay, if this team plays this team, I place a bet on that. If this team places this team, I place a bet on that. You can also do something like a parlay where you have a grouping of bets. So let's say you have like 5 bets or 4 bets, because I drew in 4 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 4 bets. And you're betting on all 4 of those to win. And you can imagine you get a much bigger payout. Does that make sense? So one way is just individual game, like I'm picking a game, picking a game. The parlay is like I'm putting a 3-game parlay or a 5-game parlay together, and or whatever it may be. And if they all win, the payout is massive. So my philosophy was this, right? Because what I noticed with myself is that I was very good. Like if I would do a parlay, if I would pick 5 games, I would usually win like 3 or 4 of them, right? And then I would never get the 5th one, so I would never make any money, right? So I got 4 to 5 right, but you lost money, right? So I stopped doing that because it didn't work for me. I just started doing individual bets, and I say, hey, I'm just going to do whatever individual bets because I know I can win these bets at a higher percentage. I had an edge, right? I can win more than I lose with these bets, but I can never get like 5 for 5. So my objective was like place whatever bets a week and just win more than I lose. And you don't make a lot of money, but you slowly make like consistent money, like a small, consistent paycheck. Does that make sense, guys? You're not making a big like, oh, I made $10,000 this week. You make like, oh, I won $10. Oh, I won $20 this week. But you do that every single week. And I'm like, okay, if I do this every single week throughout the season, this will add up to whatever at the end, kind of like trading. I chip away at like small trades on a consistent basis, law of big numbers and blah, 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 blah. He was the opposite. He was like, I'm cool losing like 20 weeks in a row. And he would do that, doing these parlay things. And he'd always hit like 4 out of 5 and lose, and then 4 out of 5 and lose, and 4 out of 5. Then like 3 months later, he'd hit all 5 and he'd make up for all his losses and be positive. That's very similar to what a true trend continuation trader is like. You have to stomach those losses if you're shooting for that big win. I couldn't do that. I would get depressed, discouraged. That's just my type. Like I need to feed myself wins. But he was okay with that because he knew like once or twice a year he'd get that big win, and he send me an email and be like, "Hey, Akil, I won 10,000 today." I'm like, a-hole, right? But he would do that. He'd have like a 10,000 day and then lose for like another 3 months straight. So those are kind of the differences there. So you got to make sure your personality is right for it. Counter trend trading is a little bit the opposite. We talked about trend continuation traders trading the extensions, counter trend trading, typically trading the pullbacks. So what you're looking to do as a counter trend trader is you're looking to find the termination point of a trend. So when is the trend going to terminate? When is it going to get exhausted? When is the market going to give us a little bit of relief? And you're trying to take advantage of that little bit of relief. Now, on face value, it's a little bit scary because it sounds, trend is your friend. Don't go against the trend, which is, depending on what market you're trading, complete BS. But it's hard because it's typically everyone is going left and you have to go right. That's psychologically the hard part of it. From a trading perspective, you don't have to worry necessarily about the pain of hanging in a trade and hoping for an extension and absorbing ebbs and flows. You're trying to catch the pullback. So you're typically in and out of a trade very quickly. You are sneaking the hand in the cookie jar. You are grabbing a small crumb and you are escaping before mom comes in and cuts her hand off. So if you're someone that wants to be in and out, if you're someone that doesn't like being in a trade for a long period of time, counter trend trading is perfect for you. So there are pros and cons of both. You're typically with counter trend trading, you're not going to catch that big win. So if you're someone that requires that big win, that big parlay hit, you're not going to get there. But you can chip away consistently at the market, chip here, chip here, chip here over time, and you can be extremely profitable. You can be even more profitable than someone that is waiting for that big win. It's not going to be you're not going to be able to brag on social media. You're not going to be able to go on X and be like, hey, I had a $20,000 day on this one trade that I've been holding for blah, 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 and make yourself look good. But in my opinion, you shouldn't be judging your trading success off of how many likes you have on socials. You should be trading it off of how many zeros you have in your trading account. But one is not better than the other. They are just a little bit different depending on your personality type. Now, I would say this as well. The market you trade makes a difference too, because different markets move differently, right? For example, I would never be a counter trend trader as a main trading strategy on the S&P, for example, right? Because what does the S&P do, guys? Does the S&P 500, does it tend to kind of move in a counter trend nature, or is it more trendy, right? It is more trendy, right? So if you have an index or a stock or whatever it is that tends to trend more, and typically, not all, but in general, the stock market tends to trend more than the Forex market, then you may find that a trend continuation approach is better in this market because you're more likely to get those big extensions. Versus with Forex trading, the majority of Forex markets tend to consolidate because it's a different nature, right? It's a battle between pairs, not just kind of one asset moving in a direction. So you see more of like a consolidative nature. So it may be harder to be a trend continuation trader. You can see there's still plenty of opportunities to be it, but you may have more periods of consolidation, which may mean there's more pain you have to take, or it may be better for you to be a counter trend trader because you're going to get more frequency with those type of trades. So you do have to take that into account as well. And of course, within Forex, it's on a pair by pair basis. There are going to be pairs that are very trendy. There are going to be pairs that are very consolidative. Like, don't be a trend continuation trader on the Euro Pound. You will hate life. Don't be a trend continuation trader on the Aussie Canada. You will hate life. Stuff like that. So those are things that you need to be aware of as too, not just from a personal perspective, but from whatever asset class you're trading as well. Now, there was a question that came in real quick. I think it was answered by George. Let me go back and read it. But why do you have to be one or the other? Why can't you trade some trades as counter trend trader and other trades as trend continuation trade? You can. I do both. Yeah. And that goes back to the original statement that I said, like, we don't need to have these labels at all, right? I trade counter trend and I trade trend continuation. Now, the one thing I would say, and I shared this story before with you with the Fibonacci failure pattern, is this. With anything in trading, make sure it's rules-based. Because one thing that you have to consider is that if you do trade both, there may be a point in time where you have contradicting signals. And then the question is, do you have a game plan on how to handle those contradicting signals? If you don't, you're going to make an emotional decision. So you have to have a game plan you have to develop your trading plan in a way that you don't get contradicting signals. And typically that means this. Start with one way of trading, whatever your quote unquote main way is. And then when you add the secondary way, let's say counter trend trading is your main way, just for an example purpose. Develop your counter trend trading strategy, develop those rules, yada, 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 do what stuff you're supposed to do. And then when you decide to develop your trend continuation strategy, it needs to be developed around the rules of your counter trend trading strategy. That way you don't get conflicting signals, right? So this is the reason why you see me, and there's a philosophical version too. You can have not just contradicting signals on a chart, but you can have contradicting ideas in your head, which is another thing that's very damaging. But it's like I just showed you. When I take trend continuation trades, I always take my target one off at that first level of structure. Or I can't take counter trend trades if it retraces to a certain level. Those are rules that I've put in to stop from having conflicting signals in how you operate. But yeah, you don't have to be one or the other. No one says you have to be one type of trader and you have to stick to that trading style forever. You can do whatever you want, right? You can be a structure to structure trader, a this to that trader. I like to think of my trading style as this. People ask me what type of trader I am all the time. And, I got to think of a cool term to use for it. But my trading style is simple. I use my ability of technical analysis to predict where market's going to go next. And I try to trade it to that level. That's all I do. I don't really care if it's trend continuation or counter trend at all, right? I just want my skill to predict where is price likely to go. And I want to be involved in a trade until price gets there. And it's as simple as that. So we've been mentioning this word edge the entire podcast, and I know many of you guys are new, you may not know what it is. So here's what we're gonna do. In the next episode of the Trading Coach Podcast, I'm gonna share with you a portion of a presentation that we recently did in one of our big workshops from Jason Greystone, talking about probabilities, talking about edge, and showing you what you need to know to ensure that you have a profitable trading strategy. Stay tuned.